Welcome to Real Talk with Reginald D. I'm your host, Reginald D. On today's episode, I have Seth Stewart. Seth is a spiritual guide, performer, author, speaker, and founder of True Kings Academy. Welcome to the show, Seth.
Thank you, Reginald. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I've been waiting on this.
Glad we made it work.
Yes, sir. So I'd like to start out, Seth, by asking just a simple question. Tell us about your childhood and where you grew up.
Absolutely. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, in Kent, Ohio, to be exact. And I grew up mixed race, in the early 80s, and grew up playing wrestling from the time I was 4 years old. I wrestled for 8 years. I played football from Pee-wees all the way through high school. But I was also into the performing arts because my family, we were just dancing. We were dancing in front of the TV when MTV was on and MC Hammer and Michael Jackson. I just grew up dancing. And so I kind of had this dual life, my whole life, that started in childhood of being an athlete and then being, a dancer, a performer. And my parents were mixed race, or I was mixed race because, my father's black, my mother's white. And I really started to kind of have this dualistic observation of why is this culture this way and this culture is this way, and having to find that middle ground as a kid. And, why are athletes this way and performers are this way, and finding the common thread. And I think it taught me to be a chameleon, but it also taught me to be non-biased because I was in between two worlds.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about that. So you lived two extraordinary lives, from performing in Hamilton and in the Heights to guiding others as a spiritual teacher. Take us back. What was the moment that shifted you from the bright lights of Broadway to the silence of the forest?
Yeah, it's, so kind of fast forwarding from childhood, I ended up taking the performer's route, and I got to do a few Broadway shows. And throughout my career as a performer, I started to get to call into nature, into the forest, into the jungles and things like that. It's like my spiritual ears kept coming online. I'm also a seeker. So I was literally looking for spiritual answers, life lesson answers. And the last show I did, which was Hamilton, I was literally on stage on a quick break to get some water. And I literally just kind of everything kind of flashed like this was going to be my last Broadway show. I was getting called out to a journey. I didn't know how many years that was going to end up being. It ended up being 7 years of a journey. And the last 3 years of that, I was in the forest pretty much by myself, building my off-grid cabin, doing work on myself spiritually and emotionally, a lot of healing work, a lot of rites of passage with the land and with myself as a man. And I was always between, I ended up being between the worlds of a heavy spiritual life and theater, but they also kind of go hand in hand.
So that's deep. That is real deep. So what does solitude reveal to you about who you really are and what purpose means?
Oh, I think every person needs solitude, but I especially think every man needs solitude at some point in your life. I mean, listen, for anybody that's listening, if you're under the age of 35 and you are not in a long-term partnership or engaged, go get some long-time solitude while you can. If you're married, obviously, or you're in a long-term partnership, you can't. But that solitude will tell you everything that's running up here, all your programs, because you have no one else to speak to. So you have to kind of let your mind run until you wear yourself out. And that's exactly what happened to me. But what also happened is when my mind started to get silent and I started to get into my heart space, I could hear spiritually. And I started to have journeys and meditations where I was connecting to myself, past live versions of myself. I was connecting to God more. We are connected to God because we are a fractal of God. So God is within me. That's my viewpoint. God is within me. God is within you. And that solitude gave me the ability to have a complete different awareness outside of my physical being and continue to develop it because it is a muscle. Like spiritual awareness, spiritual capabilities, they are tools, they are muscles. And I really feel that we have natural abilities that if we focus, can get enough solitude within ourselves, we can develop these capabilities.
Yes, absolutely. Because here's the thing about men, we have a mindset that a go get it mindset. We just got to go get it. At the end of the day, we don't care what we go bulldog everything just to go get it. We take the
Yeah,
hardest roads to get it anyway when we do something, you know, and things like that. And we never get to the point where, like you were saying, in solitude and getting into your spirituality and your mindset and get closer to God and really hearing what God's really saying at that moment. I think we stay in a place of grind so much that we miss what's next.
yeah, yeah. Or what's even right in front of our face, which could be our partners, could be the trees just outside and appreciating what's in front of us. I mean, I'm a go getter. I was trained to be a go getter. It's in my blood, it's in my DNA, it's in my family's DNA. And at the same time, you know, there have been periods in my life where I burned myself out. I burned out my gears. And that's one of the things that I'm still working on a level of that to this day. And I try to teach that to, people I coach is like, you can only go so fast for so long before it eats you alive. And it eats all of us alive if we don't slow down and kind of appreciate why we're working so hard.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is you learn how to shift, because when you performed, I mean, you had some people you performed with. You was alongside Madonna, Jay-Z, J-Lo, and all of that stuff, man. I would have kept trying to push that train.
Yeah.
But you understood there was more to it at the end of the day, which was great. Now I want to talk about this. You say we clean our bodies every day, but rarely do we clean our energy.
hmm
So for those hearing this idea for the first time, what exactly is spiritual hygiene and why is it so vital for our mental and emotional well-being?
Absolutely. Spiritual hygiene is taking care of yourself. Like I lived in the forest for very long periods of time, like years on end. And I mean off grid, and people think, oh, you're so dirty. No, I actually have to be more hygienic than the average person to stay healthy and not get sick. And by having lived outdoors for so long, hallelujah, I don't get sick because I'm in my natural environment, but I'm also taking care of my hygiene. Well, the same thing goes for your spiritual aspect. We come across people, I'll put it to you like this. There is spiritual residue on people. It could be positive residue, it could be negative residue. We all know of road rage, right? When you're driving and people are just angry all the time, they don't realize they're giving off an energetic residue. So we have to take responsibility and have a spiritual hygiene to clear ourselves of whatever we might have picked up from the day, the same way that you would shower. So, when I come in, I have to make sure I'm aware, like, for my partner who she's also very spiritually attuned. I got to make sure that I kind of do a aura kind of clearing, right? I'm just like I'm clearing what happened outside during the day and I'm leaving it outside the door and I'm dissolving it. Or if somebody tried to cuss me out on the street, I lived in New York most of my life. They might have get a earful, but I try not to feed what they might have going on. So it's basically like clearing yourselves. Like I use sage when I need to. I use, certain holy waters when I need to kind of clear my energy. One, so I don't bring it to my partner, right? Two, so that I don't have any energy residue on me. And three, it kind of keeps me open to my creativity and it keeps me open to kind of not being bogged down energetically. There's so much going on in this world and most of what is causing the depression and the confusion is negative energetic residue. Like spiritually, it looks like, remember the TVs that used to fuzz black and white at 4 o'clock in the morning when there was no more programming? That's what it looks like in the spiritual field right now. So we have to have our meditations. We have to pray and clear ourselves daily. It is like a spiritual hygiene because we are picking up stuff and we don't even know it. And we should be shielding ourselves too, like asking for protection from God to shield us from any unwanted energies. We're in a spiritual war right now. And I really believe that it's very easy to kind of create a practice. It can be a simple prayer of imagining protection around you when you go out on the day to day, especially at airports when there's a lot of different energies or concerts where there's a lot of different energies. We got to take care of ourselves now because there's a lot in the world that's trying to just energetically bring us down. And we don't deserve that. We deserve energetic sovereignty.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, If it wasn't for prayer and meditation in the mornings, every morning I get up before I go out the door, man, I'm telling you, I don't know what my
Yeah,
mindset would be like. You know what I'm
right.
saying? It brings on a certain peace, a certain comfort, in certain direction. You go out with a different direction, a different aspect on life when you walk out the door.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I'm going to use that word direction and why spiritual hygiene is so important. So we've all gotten in arguments or, where somebody else said something that pissed us off. And if we don't clear ourselves from whatever the heck they got going on, it'll literally steer you from a straight road to a small curve or a large curve, and it takes you off your path for the day, for the week, for a month, or even years. And so we got to keep ourselves clear and stay like within our own heart because, like you said, direction, it will throw you off of your path. And that's just if you don't take care of yourself and manage your emotions, keep off other people's energetic residue, you got. And it will steer you far from where you want to be. And it's hard to work your way back around on the highway and get back on your life path, your spiritual path. So direction is a huge reason why we need to have spiritual hygiene.
Oh yeah, because you sit there and then you let somebody you don't even know derail your whole direction, and he's going on or she's going on about their daily life, and you still upset, or 1 month later, still trying to get through it. But
Yep.
so, Seth, you teach something as simple as walking barefoot or deep breathing that can reset your energy. Can you walk us through one of your favorite quick energy clearing practices listeners can do right now? Because I'm going to tell you this before you start. I had a cousin that came to my house,
Okay.
and he came and he just walked out my back door, and he was outside barefooted, standing in the grass, and then I had just sitting there soaking up the sun and everything else. And I'm like, all right, you know, but it's some ritual. That's what he does. So, can you walk us through that?
Yeah. I mean, it's as ancient being barefoot and sunbathing is as ancient as, I mean, you name it. We can go back to ancient Egypt. I mean, obviously, if you're walking throughout the day, right? But like, we're missing the minerals, like from the earth. Whether you lived in the desert sand, whether you lived on clay, whether you lived in a certain soil, your body is acclimating to that environment. So the foods that come from those soils, all that stuff. So we're missing the minerals from the earth. And so we're mineral deficient in that way. And so that first clearing, as soon as you touch the grass or the sand or whatever, as long as it's not concrete, you're already reestablishing yourself back into a natural baseline, a natural frequency. And then if you get the sun on top of that, you have now become an antenna, right? I call it like Father Sky or Father Sun and Mother Earth, right? You've now become an antenna for natural cyclical energy to kind of just naturally calm down and recalibrate and heal yourselves. I just told my girlfriend we just took a walk an hour before this podcast, and I was like, we are outside people, right? We need to stay outside even more than we do. But in terms of clearing, the easiest clearing is your own form of prayer, right? If you feel like you got something on you, pray. I remove this by my own free will in the name of God, if you want to call upon God or you want to call upon your higher self, whatever it is. But I call upon God because God to me is the universe. It is everything in and around us. And so people think that prayer is cliche or mundane. And I'm not talking in the religious sense. I'm talking in a healthy way where, it casts spells against darkness and against negativity. Darkness is going to be there, everybody. It's not going away. It is a part of this realm because I've studied it for decades. It's a part of this realm. We don't have to be afraid of it. We just need to know certain tools and techniques to kind of just let it go away, kind of move it away. The same way like people used to bully us. It's just like if you just push them away, eventually it starts to go away. So I believe in the power of prayer for clearing. I believe in the power of the earth mother and sun for our grounding. And if we can do some of those base things, that is our baseline. We're not caught up in what's going on in society as much.
Right. And it's all about, you put it so simple. It's all about basically separating yourself.
Hmm.
People get wrapped up in what's going on in the world and things like that. And you have to understand, you got to separate yourself from that. Not saying you don't need to know it, but
Right. Pay attention. Yeah.
pay attention, but don't get so tied up in it until it starts derailing you from the real you and the truth about you at the end.
Yes.
So, Seth, in your memoir, Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth, you write about grounding spirituality in day to day life. How can we stay connected to our spiritual truth while living in a noisy, fast paced world?
When this is how I look at it. We live in a physical realm. Outside of our physical realm is a force realm, right? And I'll explain that. And then outside of that are the spiritual realms. It's like an onion, multiple layers. I've seen it. I've worked on it. I've worked with mentors for years on end. This physical world is much more dense compared to the spiritual realms. And if we can connect to the spiritual realms or at least know how to navigate them, then sometimes we could laugh at what goes on in the physical realm, right? It's just like, okay, we understand it's a bit of a video game. But so when I say I ground it, I say I can understand how wild the spiritual realms get. Like there are angels, there are demons, there are extraterrestrials, there are all of these things. And I've explored all of it. But what it really comes down to, the biggest thing I've learned in the past 3, 4 years when I keep praying to God, like, what can I do is to ground that information. How much of the information about ETs is actually important to the general population? Not much. Y'all don't need to be connecting with them unless unless you know how it's a whole different type of communication. How often do you need to be integrating with these things? Because at the end of the day, all the demons want is to throw us off our path. All the angels want and certain ETs want is for us to learn how to evolve as humans, and we're not. Like our species is not evolving to the capacity that it could. So when I synthesize all these different communications, what's the synthesized thing that we need to learn is that we need to be good. We need to take care of each other. It's all the same lessons. We need to realize that we're one race, that love can solve all, and that we are here as a species to evolve. And unfortunately, we are not doing that. And it's kind of sad, but there is enough percentage of humans that are evolving enough to where we can have the gifts of terms of clear communication with God, clear communication with the angels around us, clear telepathy, clear clairaudience, clairvoyance, the ability to heal ourselves and heal others, right? This is already happening where people can get sick for a day and heal themselves. I see it all over the place. That is general. We do not need as many pharmaceuticals and all of these things. We are self-healers, the same way Yeshua was here to teach us, along with Magdalene. So I got taken off the rails, not taken off the rails, but we, all of this information, spiritual information, my goal was how can I make it as simple as possible? Because the other thing I teach my guys is that guess what? You still need income here on this planet. That is not going away. Your rent is not going away, or your mortgage is not going away. Car payment, gas, food, even living off grid, you still need money because I've lived it. So we have to be responsible in the physical, what we need to do in the physical, but not be bound by the physical. Be connected to God, be connected to the spiritual realms, and then translate down to here so that everything is easier. It's like a video game. You need to be up closer to God within your heart and in the realms, and then you are actually transmuting down to your avatar down here to make it easier for you. Your higher self, God knows the codes. Your physical self is just the avatar for your higher spiritual self. And we're reversed. We're in our human form trying to be like, what do we do? What do we do? When the whole point is to flip our perception and be like, listening, tuning into our highest version of ourselves, which is fully connected to God, which is what I think Yeshua did, and then be dropping down that information and guidance to our physical self.
Well put. Well put, man.
Thank you.
So, Selma, how has your time studying with the shamans and envision questions shaped your understanding of unity, consciousness, and how does that translate to how we treat others?
Yes. I've worked with a lot of different shamans, and I don't want to say a lot, but a few shamans through different cultures. And it has all come down to trying different things to realize that anytime I'm in any type of ceremony, I'm still seeking a better understanding of God and mysteries, right? And the biggest takeaway from all of that is that the biggest revelation is that, it all leads back to the same place, which is unity. Even though there's so many different things going on through my plant medicine journeys and different type of sweat lodges and things, it all comes back to us. It all comes back to we are connected. Same thing Bob Marley was saying. So why aren't we getting these lessons as humans? Reginald, like this is what I'm like from a outside perspective. I'm like, why can't we just get the lessons that have been repeated through different mouthpieces for thousands of years? I don't know why. I do know why. Heavy programming.
Yes.
But all of my experiences lead me back to God is real, magic is real, and love is real. And we have to retune to those higher frequencies, no matter what our spiritual background is. But we can't seem to fully do it. And that just fascinates me.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy because, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what goes on. We are put here to be as one.
Correct.
No matter what it is, we are one. When we have that mindset and that philosophy, we walk in that, things will change. But people just don't grab it. And a lot of times they just don't want to understand.
They don't want to understand. There's a lot of people that just don't want to understand. And I've noticed that as well. And oneness comes with differences. Oneness comes with not always agreeing, but it comes to having the capacity to respect differences and respect diversity and respect a different way of life. Because in higher realms, these beings are living all different kinds of lives, and some are trying to infiltrate others. Everything we see here in the physical is happening in the spiritual, right? There's spiritual wars going on out there, but there's a lot of different types of angels and beings that are not bothering anybody, and they live in complete utopia. So utopia, unity doesn't go without differences, but there's a mutual understanding that we can still live in peace. The same way there's a mutual understanding where you don't hit somebody in a crosswalk, right? The idea of unity should be that uh, unconscious within our beingness, but it's programmed out of us.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, Seth, through True Kings Academy, you're helping men embody soulful leadership. What does it mean to lead from spirituality and integrity instead of ego?
With True Kings Academy, I prayed on, how I could help. And God said years ago, the men, you got to help the men because men are not in healing spaces as much. And when it comes to leadership, we have a pyramid going on in every country. And that pyramid is one man at the top. But where we naturally come from, you need the upward pyramid and you need the downward pyramid. You need the male and you need the female. And when I look for templates, I've looked for templates for divine couples. I've only found so far, I know there are more, the divine coupling of Yeshua and Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, the coupling of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, the coupling of King Arthur and Guinevere. How did they lead? They listened to God. They asked God, what do you need from me? And then they followed suit. But the thing that was different about these men is their woman, their divine counterpart, was right here. And she had a say in the leadership because the two of them, we are meant to lead with our partner for the betterment of our families and for the betterment of everybody. So they were round tables. So I believe that real men that are in their divinity, it means they're connected to God in their hearts. I believe our actual throne is within our heart. And divinity means you're connected to God. And in order to truly be a great leader, you need to listen to God, sit in your heart at your throne until your queen is there and y'all lead together.
And that's when it becomes powerful.
And that's when,
When your queen comes in, I'm telling you, I live it. I live it.
yeah,
I live it every day, man. When she gets in behind me or gets right beside me on something, it goes to another level, man. It,
right.
it does. So, for those listening who feel stuck between their success story and their soul story, What's
Woo!
one step they can take to start living their truth today?
Between their success story and their soul story. One step, well, it may not be a step, but I think it's a piece of advice. You can do both, but for so long, you can have your success story and your soul story. One might take precedent over the other, and it doesn't mean you can't do both, but one might demand more of you, and you may not be willing to answer the call. But what you could do is to be open to what God asks of you. That was one of the things my mentor said. People are afraid to ask God what is needed of them because they're afraid to answer the call. They're afraid to pick up the phone and really put in that work.
Yes. I like that, Seth. I like the
Mhm.
way you broke that down. I was wondering where you was gonna go with that one. I was saying, where he's gonna go with this one? But that's right on point, man. It's right on
Yeah.
point.
If you ask God, you better be ready to pick up the phone and be ready for what the creator has to say.
Oh
Because,
yeah. And a lot of times it's not what you thinking. It's
nope.
not what you thinking.
Right. You might have to do a full 180. You think you're going the right way, and you might need to be going back that way and to the right. That's what happens. That's what happens. It's what
Right.
happened to me. It's what happens to a lot of people I know that really choose God and really choose the light path.
Exactly. So, Seth, let me ask you this. When you look back on your Broadway days now, with all the fame and applause, what does success mean to you today?
Success today, up until this point so far, to me, means that connection with God, like clearly hearing what is needed of me, a healthy partnership. It's not always going to be happy, but healthy. The ability to serve others, the ability to be a multimillionaire, to help others even more and travel the world, and then actual physical and emotional health. Those are like my five: God, my partnership, help serving others, financially abundant. I'm not going to get twisted. Like, I want some cars, I want some homes, but it's not for the material aspect. It's for the ability to create assets to pass down, right? Because I've learned if you have homes, if you have land and you can pass it down in your family, that's how you create financial wealth. So that's what I mean, not just for myself, but creating it for my family and, the ability to travel more. So I don't need a lot of things. I prefer experiences more than I need things, but that's what success looks like for me. I don't need to be known. I don't need the fame. I want to serve and have the ability to do what I want when I want.
Right. Because here's the thing about that. You know, people take that and be like, why all these houses, why these cars and things like that? But like you say, it's a generational thing.
It's a
And then,
generational thing.
it's a generational thing. And then God does say he gives you the power to get wealth. So
Hmm.
why did he say that if it didn't meant for you to get it
Right.
at the end of the day? I heard somebody say other day that was speaking and it said that people were saying, why is he driving this or why he living this and why he has this? And he basically said, why you worrying about what I got? He said,
Mm.
I'm driving and living in what I spoke into my life
Hmm.
and what I speak every day into my life. That's how I'm living,
Right.
with his faith and his hard work and, things like that. So he really kind of put it down. And that's it, man. It's just what you want in life. You got to, I mean, the grind's got to be there. We know that. We know
Yeah.
they have the faith to go out there and believe that you have these things that you desire.
And it goes back to that generational thing. It's like my age group of me and my cousins, me and my cousins are all homeowners. My aunts and my uncles, not all of them are. My generation is the one that's like, we're leveling up. So when I say I want multiple homes that stay in the family. So they don't leave so that we can teach the next generation. When I say I want cars, I only need two. I need my daily and my classic. I am a car guy. I love God. I've lived in nature for 4 years total of my life. I've helped kids go on backpacking. I like to be in a cold, clean whip. That is how I grew up. That is my culture. That is how I will be. And I will not deny that part of myself because it's a life experience. And I like the car culture and the fact that people talk about things. So yeah, it's less about the thing and more about the experience that it brings, which is again why we're here.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Help others and live your life.
Right. Right. You got to have something after you give away everything else. You got to have
Right.
something for yourself, right?
Right.
So, Seth, what do you hope readers will take away from Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth?
That they start to find and embody their truest selves. That is one of the biggest things from my book that was released a couple weeks ago. I would love for people to find and embody their truest selves, because their truest self might be a little bit weirder than they expect. They might have to say some things that call from their heart that God says, I need you to speak this, that they're not ready for, but that's them finding and embodying their truest selves. Same way I talked about, I like the woods and I like classic cars. That's truest self. The other thing is that I would like for them to take away that there is magic in nature. And we as humanity are only going to really calm down if we are listening to Mother Nature and being in our natural environment, especially as this world turns more technological. We have to keep roots. We have to keep roots within our feet, within our beingness. And I guess the last thing is that they remember that they are God. So if they find their truest selves, embody it. I pray that they stay close to nature or get close to nature and remember that that is our original home, no matter what part of the world you're from, and that they remember that they are a part of God. They are a fractal of a huge, vast, infinite, you know, great mystery that we call God.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that has been a touchy subject that I've talked with people about, that you are part of God. When you look in that mirror, that's who you are. You're part of you're not the whole God, but you're a part
Hmm.
of it. And people out here in the world will never know or know who God is or never see God until they see you and see the God
Mm,
in you. That's how they begin to know God. So many people I've encountered and I've done things for, and I reached out to and I ministered to and I did things. They never knew who God was. They saw it through me, and it changed their whole perspective of life.
hmm.
Because they weren't at a church, they weren't at this, they wasn't that. We was on the street, we
Yep.
was like downtown. I'm talking to some homeless guys or something. So,
Yeah.
God, He reveals Himself through us because we are vessels.
Yes.
You know, we're vessels, and that's what we are called to do at the end of the day. And regardless of anything else you do, you're called to
Yes.
serve. You're called to serve.
Yeah. You know what? I used to be afraid to like talk about God because it's a touchy subject. If it's touchy for people anymore, it is not, that's not my trigger. That's their trigger. You know, I'm not talking about the guy in the sky religious version, but I'm not afraid of religion. Like it's all paths leading to the same place. It's all roots of the same tree, really. And, but I don't want to be afraid to talk about creator, how we got here, what we're doing. Like, if people got a problem with it, then I'm not their person. But I have had way too many experiences, too much inner knowing to know that it's real and that there's divine orchestration, as chaotic as it can be sometimes. And there's times where I don't understand, but that's why I call God the great mystery, because you can understand some and then realize you don't understand any of it. And that's why I seek it. It's the most fascinating journey of my life, is seeking the understanding of all that is, knowing that I'll never fully understand.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing about it is, and what gets you closer, the most powerful thing you can do is what you do, and it's been solitude. Getting
Mm,
away from the noise, to get away from, man, I'm telling you, when you get away from the noise and get in your own space, then you really start hearing things and you start seeing things and stuff start coming to you. You know,
hmm.
you be like, wow, man, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about this. Oh my God, what? And then you you gotta, like you say, you gotta do a 180
Yeah.
going this way, but this is not where I'm supposed to be going. So it's something about, man, stillness. It's something about stillness. It does something to you. It reprograms you. It wakes you up. Actually, people say stillness, quietness puts you to sleep. No, it doesn't. It actually wakes you up.
Yeah. I agree. I agree 1000%. It'll put you to sleep at first until you keep showing up. And the next thing you know, you're up, you're activated. So It's yeah, again, even from a religious standpoint, 40 days and 40 nights, activations were happening, it's a complete awareness but, this whole totality of everything, so I've had these personal experiences from Broadway and some of the top things you could do in entertainment, and I chose to go where nature was calling me for my personal evolution, and I share a lot of this in my book, Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth, to where it's like, I'm having these experiences. Other people can have certain experiences, and you don't need to go away for long periods of time. A long weekend can do you a lot of good. But I really believe that we need to stay in tune with ourselves, in tune with nature, because we have so many different things vying for our energy. And it's not a game. Like things are trying to capture our attention and our energy. And we need to have that energetic and spiritual awareness, um, protection, and sovereignty.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That way you won't miss it.
Yeah.
That's the thing about
Or get got.
right. Or get got. Yeah. Yep, exactly. So, Seth, lastly, how can my listeners purchase your books or sign up for True Kings Academy or follow you?
Absolutely. All of my handles and my website is I am Seth Stewart. It's imsethstewart.com or on social media. True Kings, we have our own website, truekingsacademy.com. 2026, we'll be running coursework for men ages 25 to 40. We will be doing open circles once a week, free. So if men just need a place to talk, a safe place to talk, it's all online, but nothing is recorded. And then we will be doing 2 retreats next year for True Kings. And in my personal, you're going to see my performance stuff too. I run a business. So you'll see my performance stuff. I tell all my men, you can help others, keep a job. That's exactly what I practice, what I preach. And my book, Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth, is also on my website. I am SethStewart.com.
There you have it, Seth. Seth, man, I'll tell you what, man, I really appreciate it spending this time with you. And I'm really honored and I really respect the things that you're doing. I'll say for the kingdom. That's what I say.
Hey, thank you.
That you're doing, man, and keep pushing and keep doing the great things that you're doing. Now, you say you're from Canton, right? Ain't that the place of the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, Kent State, not Canton.
Oh, I thought, okay,
Sometimes
Kent
I
State. I
accent.
think that Canton. I
But
said,
yeah, where Kent State is. But I mean, Canton, I know of where the Football Hall of Fame is and everything
all
like
right.
that. But yeah, I mean, I grew up where you had to be a real person and you got to stay humble all the way up, or they're going to let you know. So that's what I do my best to do that. So I still go home and see my people, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But, anyway, I was going somewhere with that. You're definitely a Hall of Famer in what you do, though.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. There you have it. Seth Stewart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Blessings.
Blessings. Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with Reginald D. If you enjoyed listening to Real Talk with Reginald D, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.